Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello everyone, welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, the show where you get your questions in and we give you answers. You may be asking, what should I put on my Christmas shopping list this year for property investors? Well, we may have an answer to that in a few weeks' time. But for now, we've got two brilliant property questions in. And hopefully, you never know, we might be able to give you two brilliant answers, or half-decent ones at least. But before we give that a go, let's give you a quick reminder of how you can get your question into the show.
Yes, the number is 013 808 00035, or you can go to propertyhub.net/ask, leave us a voicemail either way, send your question over, just like Adam did.
Hi, Rob and Rob. Thank you for your podcast. I've really enjoyed it over the past few years and learned so much. Unfortunately, this year, my family have inherited a property in North London. It's worth circa 600k and the mortgage is completely paid off. And to be honest, I was just hoping to get some advice on maybe an equity release to invest in other properties, renting it out as a house or splitting into flats or HMO. Just thought where you would advise we start that process with.
Adam, thank you for your question. And it's difficult, right? You've been put in a situation you didn't expect, and now you're in a financial position which a lot of people would love to be in, but you don't want to mess it up. I get it. I understand why you'd probably feel that way. And thank you for getting your question in so we can try and help. The most important thing to do right now is understand what you want in the end. Forget about how you're going to get there. Decide on what you want. So what would be a great end goal for you? Would it be to produce a certain level of income that would allow you to stop working or go part-time? Is it a play for a pension in the future? And therefore you need to earn X amount a year for that to happen. It doesn't matter what it is. Just decide what it is and then put a time frame on it. And go, okay, I want to do that in 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. It's up to you again what you decide. If you're unsure, speak to an expert who may be able to guide you and let you know if it is possible or not. Once you've done that, you need to assess your own situation. Do you have spare time in your week, or are you up to your eyeballs with it and you barely get a minute to breathe? Or somewhere in the middle? The reason I say this is growing a portfolio can be challenging in terms of the time you need to invest into it, and some strategies will require more of your time. Building a HMO portfolio, for example, could yield great returns, but also could greatly impact on your time in a negative way. And for a first-time property investor, it might be a bit intimidating. That said, if you've got lots of time and you want to build up a second job, then there's lots of interesting strategies you can go for. It's not for me to tell you which one is right. You should look at your goals, your time horizons, and your situation, and then make a better decision. And although it would be far more exciting to give you a sexy strategy that you can start to implement, but anybody who tries that is probably not worth listening to, because if they're not asking about you, understanding your goals and understanding what you want, how can they advise you? What people tend to do when they give advice around these subjects is guide you to do the things that they've done. And that's fine. They're not trying to mislead you. Well, in most cases, the reason they do it is because that's their bias. That's what they've worked out is right for them. But what they forget is that we're all different. We all have different goals. And we all have different time horizons that we have to operate to. So give that some thought and then look at which strategies will best suit your goals, your time horizons, and your time right now. And once you go through that process, it should be a lot easier to start moving forward. At the very least, you can start to rule out a lot of these strategies that you mentioned, and a lot more that will be suggested to you. So good luck, Adam. I'm sure you'll do fine, especially if you take your time, stop, and think about what you truly want from this.
Okay, let's move on to our next question.
Hi, Rob and Rob. My name's Tender. I am a graduate project management consultant working in London. I was previously an international student, and my line of questioning comes in with regards to purchasing a buy-to-let property or multiple buy-to-let properties as a foreigner or as a non-British citizen. I was hoping you guys would be able to unpack some of the obstacles involved in that process and, just generally speaking, how achievable that goal is. Thank you.
Whether you can get a mortgage as a foreign national or how easy it is and what options you have will depend on factors like which country you're a citizen of, how long you've been in the UK for, how long you got left on your visa type, the nature of the employment that you have in the UK. There is so much to think about. And depending on the answers to those questions, it can be anything from kind of specialist but doable to really pretty tricky and probably not going to happen. So it's impossible for me to give you an accurate answer. Firstly, because I am not an expert in this area. And secondly, because I don't know enough about you. So whenever we talk about mortgages, talk to a broker is the advice that we almost always give. In your case, absolutely speak to a mortgage broker, and speak to a mortgage broker who's used to dealing with clients in your situation, because it is a super specialist area. So even at a generic level, if you walk into your local high street bank and ask about a mortgage versus speaking to an independent mortgage broker, you'll get completely different advice, levels of service, options. But then even within independent mortgage brokers, speaking to someone who spends most of their time placing very straightforward residential mortgages versus someone who does lots of complex buy-to-let work with expats, with foreign nationals, again, it's worlds apart. So it might take a bit of research to find that person, but it's well worth doing because they'll be able to give you a detailed answer for your own circumstances. And they'll also be able to tell you what changes would make it easier or give you more options, because your situation will change in the future. So you'll have spent longer in the UK. Your employment might change, your visa status might change, and knowing how each of those will affect your mortgage options will be really useful to you. So even if you're not in a position to invest right now, for whatever reason, having that knowledge is going to be super helpful for you in terms of planning and goal setting. So while that is not a definitive answer for you, I think you've got a really clear next step. And once you've done that, you'll be in a much stronger position.
So thank you for your questions and thank you for listening. We'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast and, of course, back next week with Ask Rob and Rob. So until then, take care, have fun, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.